Now that the goblins were all settled in with Donna, it was time to leave Tennessee. I had been in touch with a fellow user on Monsters Den, and it sounded like they had a promising sighting. Well, they didn't actually see anything, but they'd been hearing these inhuman cries from the woods over multiple nights, and there were local legends about a creature that made similar calls. So, seeing as how there weren't any more pressing cases in the news, we decided to head there for our next investigation. And with that, we started the drive over to Beckley, West Virginia. It wasn't too far of a journey, but we decided to break the trip up into a few days. It gave us a lot of time to talk, especially about some of the things we recently learned from one of Norman's journals.
I still can't believe my grandfather was a part of that Ordo Sancti Georgi.
Yeah, I know. Norman was one of the men in black, and he quit. Why would anyone ever leave a super cool secret organization?
Cool? Seriously?
What? You can't deny they're at least kinda cool. I mean, they've got helicopters for crying out loud.
God, you're so easily impressed. Anyway, I have been wondering the same thing. Why he left, I mean. I've been rereading his older journal entries, and it still doesn't explain much, but it seems like he left over the killing.
Right.
He never wanted to hurt cryptids, you know? He just wanted to make sure everyone was safe, humans and animals alike. And, well, you've seen how trigger-happy the Ordo is.
Pew, pew. Shoot first, ask questions later.
Exactly. He didn't want to kill unless it was absolutely necessary.
Fair enough. Irreconcilable differences, like a bad breakup.
Sure.
I know you still don't trust them, and I know your grandfather did quit, but the fact that he was a part of the group in the first place, they can't be all bad, right?
I don't know.
Besides, they are cool. Even their name is cool. Ordo Sancti Georgi. The Ordo. Oh, you know what? We should totally come up with our own name.
We already have names?
No, like a group name. All the great teams have one. SETI, MUFON, TAPS, BFRO.
BFRO?
Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. BFRO. They're all acronyms.
Oh. Well, I tell you what. You come up with a decent name, I'll consider it.
Monster Finders of America. New England Animal Trackers. We could be neat.
Jesus.
Fritz likes it. People for the Ethical Treatment of Tatzelworms.
Oh, these all suck.
They're just off the top of my head. I'll come up with something better.
Sure you will.
Whatever. Speaking of your grandfather, I'm still more amazed that you don't think the Mothman was an alien.
Not a chance. I know our lives are crazy now, but I still have to draw a line somewhere. And without sufficient proof, I draw the line at aliens.
It was from space! How much more proof do you need?
No. My grandfather wrote that the Mothman said it was from space. That's like third-hand evidence, at best. And my grandfather didn't see a ship or anything else that would prove it.
You want proof? What about the sketch? It doesn't look like anything else on Earth. At least with other cryptids, they have recognizable parts, wings or horns or whatever, but this thing was just alien. No pun intended.
Lucas, there are so many bizarre, unique creatures on this planet. You could say the same thing about, like, half the creatures that live in the ocean. You ever see a brittle starfish? It's like a starfish made out of centipedes.
Ugh, no. Gross.
Yeah. My point is, there already are species out there that don't look like anything else. And unless I see any evidence to the contrary, I'm going to consider the Mothman as part of that category.
But why would it have lied? I mean, hell, it killed itself right after that.
I don't know. Enough about aliens. Let's talk about something else. Like, what are we even looking for in Virginia? You never told me its name.
West Virginia. But, yeah, right. I did not. because I knew you would think it was stupid.
Well, what is it?
Sheep squatch.
Sheep squatch?
Sheep squatch.
Wow, you're right. That is stupid. Please, tell me all about sheep squatch.
Okay. Well, as best as I could find, sightings of the sheep squatch first began in 1994. 2 kids in Boone County, West Virginia, were playing in their yard when they saw what they described as a large white bear around 6 feet tall. I couldn't really find the origin of the name, but I'm pretty sure it's only from the fur color because nothing else about it is ever really described as sheep-like. But that same year, a guy named Edward Rollins, apparently a Navy vet, saw something similar. He had been exploring the area looking for Mothman.
Wait a minute. The dude who supposedly saw a cryptid was looking for Mothman? Seriously?
Yeah. You know, West Virginia actually has a lot of famous cryptids. Mothman, obviously, the Flatwoods Monster, the Grafton Monster.
And sheep squatch, apparently.
Yeah. Anyway, he was out in the wilderness when he came across a large creature on all fours drinking from a creek. He said its fur was a light yellowish brown, but he couldn't tell if it had brown fur or white fur that had just gotten really dirty. He also claimed it had 2 goat-like horns. There was another sighting in 95. A couple was driving through Boone County, and they apparently saw a bear-sized, ash-colored creature sitting in a ditch. And I guess they also said it had 4 eyes.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. They said as they drove by, it ran towards them and attacked the car, so they sped off.
Okay, so it's probably aggressive, whatever it is.
Some campers saw it in 99. I guess they were having a bonfire when it came out of the woods and chased them all the way back to their house. They didn't give a good description besides something big and white, but it did let out what they called a terrible scream before it stopped chasing them. Then it wasn't seen again until 2015, at least anywhere that I could find. This time, a half-dozen campers were spending the night in the woods of Folks Run in Virginia. They saw something crouched at the top of the hill. It stood up, roughly 8 or 9 feet tall, and started running towards them. It had to cross a river to get to them, and I guess as it crossed the river, there was another loud scream from the woods, and that scared this creature away. So maybe there's 2 of them. The only other description they gave was that it resembled a bipedal dog. And that brings us up to the present day.
And the guy from Monsters Den?
Yeah, Phil McElroy. He hasn't actually seen anything, but he said that there's been this terrible screaming or howling out in the woods for multiple nights in a row now.
And we think it's the same creature?
I certainly think it's worth checking out. Almost all the sheep squatch sightings were from Boone County, and the town of Beckley is only about an hour and a half away from there.
Okay, so then what are we thinking this sheep squatch could be?
I'm not entirely sure. For one thing, no one's really clear on whether it's bipedal or quadrupedal. Maybe something like a bear or a lycanthrope that can move either way?
Maybe, but not necessarily. Witnesses could have seen a quadrupedal creature rearing up on its back legs, or a bipedal creature crouched over. The stance alone doesn't really tell us much.
Fair enough. The horns and the fur color do kind of remind me of the goat man.
But this thing would be way bigger.
Different species? Or maybe just a larger than average goat man?
It's possible. If it really is bipedal, it could also be some type of hominid, like another Sasquatch.
That's true. Oh, or maybe it's like a Goatman Bigfoot hybrid.
Oh, I did not need that mental image. But I guess we won't know until we find it.
We made it to Beckley, West Virginia without incident. After getting a room, I called our witness, Phil.
Oh, Lucas. Hey.
Hi, is everything okay?
Sorry, this isn't a great time.
Oh, what's wrong?
Well, my friend just overdosed, actually. Well, yesterday.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
It's okay, he's still alive. At least for now. He's in a coma.
Well, hey, don't worry about us. I totally get it. Let me know if there's anything we can do for you.
Thanks. Actually,
What?
well, this is gonna sound dumb.
What? No, of course not. What can we do?
Okay. I don't know exactly what he took, but I think there was something weird about it. Like, your kind of weird.
Really? You mean like the drug itself?
Yeah. First off, I wasn't, partaking myself. Just hanging out with him while he did it. But, gosh, I feel stupid saying this out loud, but right after he took it, like, just a few minutes later, he said we better get popcorn.
Sorry, I think you lost me.
It was like 2 in the afternoon. At the time, I was thinking we could go see a movie that night.
Okay, and you wanted popcorn? I don't think I understand. What's weird about this?
I didn't say anything. Not out loud. I was just thinking about it.
Oh. Oh! You think he read your mind?
I don't know. It sounds ridiculous, but, I mean, I've been following your podcast for a while now. And if Mia really can do all that stuff with her mind...
Yeah, man. It is crazy. But anything's possible. Was that the only weird thing that happened?
Kind of. After he said that, he just sort of went into a trance. Like, just sat there, motionless. He didn't say anything, didn't respond to me. I mean, it was like nothing I've ever seen before. But his eyes were open the whole time, and he was breathing, so I wasn't too worried. It wasn't until about an hour later that anything changed. His breathing started to get really slow, and then he just passed out. I was freaking out. I called an ambulance. They brought him to the hospital and got him stabilized. But he's been unresponsive since then.
Huh. Well, listen, I really am sorry. I hope your friend pulls through. I know there's not anything we can do to physically help him, but after the sheep squatch investigation, we'll look into that drug.
Okay, thanks.
With our one witness not really in the right mind to talk about the case and give us any more details, we decided to just venture off into the nearby woods. Since the calls had all been heard at night, we waited until dusk to go out. And almost immediately, Mia could tell we were on the right track.
I've got something.
Seriously? You sense it? Already?
Yeah, whatever it is, it's in pain.
That would explain the excessive howling.
Yeah, get the tranq gun ready. If it's injured, hopefully we can help it.
All right. We continued through the woods with Mia obviously taking the lead, and sure enough, we soon found the sheep squatch. Although, honestly, bear squatch would have been more accurate. What it really reminded me of was the Ozark howler. It looked like a large bear covered in white fur with goat-like horns. Well, it used to have horns. We quickly realized why it was in pain. All that remained of the horns were a pair of stumps.
Poor thing. They must have broken off.
How does that even happen?
Maybe it got into a fight? Some sort of territorial dispute? I don't know.
Am I still drinking it?
Yeah, then we can get a better look. If this happened recently, we can at least clean up the area, make sure it doesn't get infected.
Okay. Here we go. Thankfully, the creature either didn't notice the dart or just didn't care, and we followed it until it passed out. Once we were sure it was unconscious, we moved closer to check its wounds. Is it just me, or is this an awfully clean break?
What the f***? I think these were cut off.
Cut off? How would someone even do that?
Heavy sedatives and a powerful handsaw?
Right. Duh.
Some f***ing trophy hunter.
At least they didn't kill it. Think it could have been Faulkner?
It's entirely possible. Let's just get this cleaned up. We can worry about who did it later.
Assuming we're even able to find them.
Right.
As best as Mia could tell, the horns had probably been removed within the past week. It wasn't so recent that the stumps were bleeding or anything, but it also hadn't been long enough for any real scarring to form. With some quick passes from a lighter, we made sure that what remained of the horns was cauterized, since horns are apparently filled with blood vessels. Mia then applied some antibiotics, and we wrapped some bandages around its head as best we could. Short of actual medical attention, there wasn't much more we could do, but thankfully it didn't seem like a life-threatening injury. Once that was taken care of, we tried searching the area for any clues as to who might have taken the horns, but we couldn't find anything. So we left. The next morning, I got a call from Phil. His friend, Russell, had woken from the coma. So, after breakfast, we met up with Phil, and the three of us went to the hospital.
Who are they?
Hi, Mia.
Lucas.
It's okay, Russ. I know them. They're here to help.
Help?
Phil said something about all this was weird. We sorta deal in weird.
Sorry to be blunt, but what did you actually take? Phil said he didn't know.
Yeah, well, that's 'cause it's new.
New? What does that mean? Someone just invented a new drug?
I was at the club. This lady started dancing with me, then tried chatting me up. I couldn't really hear her, so we went out back. She wanted to tell me about this new stuff she had. She called it wool.
Wool?
Yeah, 'cause it pulls the wool off your eyes. Shows you the real world. I didn't want to do any at the club, but she convinced me to take some home. Give it a try later.
And you did?
Yeah, why not? I'm always up for something new.
Clearly. What did she mean by the real world?
Like hidden stuff. Magic. Things people can't normally see.
Sounds like the fog to me.
Yeah, possibly. Phil said... He says you were able to read his mind. Do you remember that? Or anything else that happened before your overdose?
Mind reading? What? No. I took the wool. I was waiting for it to kick in. Phil said something about wanting to go see a movie. I said I wanted popcorn. Then I saw this weird halo around him. Not like an angel halo. It was like energy. Like he was glowing. And that's the last I remember, before waking up here.
And you didn't know the woman that gave it to you?
Never met her before.
I've actually been asking around, and Russ isn't the only person this has happened to. This, wool. The nurses say there have been at least 3 other cases in the past week of people spacing out and then going into these comas.
Okay, something weird is definitely going on here. Do you remember anything else about this lady?
Brunette. Long hair. In her 30s, maybe? That's it, really.
We decided it made the most sense to ask around the club where Russell met this mystery woman, so we went there once it was open. Naturally, given the nature of the illicit substances we were dealing with, no one really wanted to speak on the record, so no recording. Also, clubs are just really loud. We did, however, finally get a break. She was actually there. Someone we had talked to earlier in the night pointed her out to us. And sure enough, a woman with long brown hair, a little older than us, was dancing with a man on the other side of the room. She was dressed nice, but also plain enough that she didn't really stick out from the crowd. After a while, she eventually left the club, and staying far enough away so as not to arouse any suspicion, we followed her out. So, what now?
She's going to a car. We follow her, see what we can find out.
And so, we got into our car and began tailing her. We even ended up turning our headlights off once we got onto the smaller roads. She ended up driving to a small home in the woods just outside of town. A rental property, we would later find out. Now that we had an address, we went back to our room to get a few hours of sleep. Around dawn, we returned, hiding nearby and just staking out the house. And not much happened until sunset, when our mystery woman emerged from the house, got into her car, and left. It was dark out and there were no lights on inside, so we decided it would be safe to move in closer. Sneaking in through the garage, we were immediately confronted with something that looked more or less like a satanic meth lab. Shining our lights around, we saw tables covered with unrecognizable lab equipment, beakers and tubes and, I don't know, stuff like that. Papers were scattered around everywhere. Some had formulas or equations written on them, and others had shapes that looked like glyphs or runes drawn on in thick marker. In the center of the room, spray painted on the floor, was a large circle filled with smaller circles and lines and geometric shapes. It was the type of thing someone would use to summon a demon in a horror movie. The room smelled like a strong mix of burnt incense and chemicals. The air was filled with a thick dust that almost made it difficult to see. As we continued looking around, my light happened upon a mortar and pestle. There was just a trace of powdery residue left in the bottom, and next to it was a sheet of paper with a sketch of a creature vaguely resembling the sheep squatch, and a small object that I finally identified as the last remnant of a goat-like horn. All at once, it hit me. How did we not put this together? Wool! Like sheep?
Like sheep squatch. Son of a bitch.
So, okay, let's think about this for a minute. Some lady goes out into the woods, cuts the horns off of a very dangerous creature, grinds them up, and makes some kind of cryptid-laced drug? Why?
Look at all this shit. She's clearly insane. But it worked. She made a mind-reading drug, and probably one that can see through the fog for that matter.
Doesn't work too well. Russell heard, one thought? Then he went into a trance and then a coma.
Yeah, but it's more than nothing. Whatever the enigma is, whatever gave me my powers, it can be transferred. At least partially.
Huh. Well, at least we can call the cops this time. Whatever the hell they cooked up here, this is clearly, definitely illegal.
Yeah, we can worry about the science of all this later. Let's get the hell out of here.
So, obviously, we called the cops. Anonymously, as usual. We didn't want to have to explain that our knowledge came from breaking and entering. Anyway, they went to investigate and dismantled all the drug stuff. As I mentioned earlier, the house was a rental property, but apparently no one had been renting it at the time. Whoever this woman was, she didn't belong there. The next day, we got a call from Phil. He had just gotten back from visiting Russell at the hospital, and apparently there had been an unexpected visitor the night before. When we saw the mystery woman leave the house in which she had been squatting and doing God knows what else, it turns out that she had gone to the hospital to talk to Russell. She didn't stay for long, but she pressed him for details on what happened when he took the wool. He told her what he could and what Phil had said of the experience. She seemed pleased. When Russell asked her what exactly wool was, she just thanked him and said that he had helped her sisters immensely. Then she left without a trace. The police kept an eye on the house, but she never returned. So, with the sheep squatch healed up to the best of our abilities, and with this mystery woman completely in the wind, we decided to call this investigation closed.
Field notes. Sheep squatch. Probably one of the worst names I've heard yet. Anyway, the creature mostly resembles the Ozark howler, albeit an albino specimen. The creature is most likely a closely related species, though it could also just be a mutated member of the howlers themselves. Most interestingly though, unlike the Ozark howler, it had a long, hairless tail, similar to a rat or possum. Now, given the size of its tail, it probably helped support the body and allowed the creature to more easily walk bipedally compared to other bears. On all fours, the creature measured about 5.5 feet tall at the shoulders and 14 feet long. Standing on its hind legs, it would be 10.5 feet tall. So, not counting the tail, about the same size as the Ozark howler. Unfortunately, the creature's horns were used to make some sort of drug that induces mind-reading abilities in the person that takes it. Whether that is due to some inherent trait of the sheep squatch or something that could be done with any cryptid is unknown, and I don't plan on running any tests to find out. I hope that's the last we hear of people dealing weird psychic drugs. But I'm not that optimistic. End field notes.
The Cryptid Cases has been a production of Little Giant Monsters.
You can follow us by searching Little Giant Monsters on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to keep up to date with everything we're working on. We even post a sketch of the latest cryptid every Monday after a new episode.
You can also visit our website, littlegiantmonsters.com, to see all of our content in one place.
While you're there, want our designs on stickers, t-shirts, coffee mugs, and more? We now have merch. Just look for the merchandise link on our website.
If you really like what we're doing and want to see us do more, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Rewards include behind-the-scenes content, bonus material, and more. Search Little Giant Monsters on Patreon or find a link on our website.
You can also help us by leaving a rating and review on iTunes. Not only does each review warm our cold, cynical hearts, but it helps us move up the charts and bring the show to a wider audience.
Your continued support means so much to us. Thanks for listening and see you again soon.